Thank you and welcome to Shari Slate, the Chief Inclusion and Collaboration Officer at Cisco, Vice President of Inclusive Future and Strategy. Wow, what a title that is. Shari, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Pamela, it's wonderful to be here.
So look, last summer was a time of social and racial reckoning in the US and around the world. Many companies were forced to grapple with how to respond internally to employees and externally to clients and consumers. Do you think this moment in time has fundamentally changed the role and potential impact of D&I practitioners in a much more holistic way than ever before?
So, Pamela, the answer is yes. Last summer was an absolute reckoning. And in that reckoning, it caused us to begin to think about things differently. When we stop and think about what it shined a light on, it shined a light on the gap of the size between our aspiration and our effort. What was fascinating and profound is that so many people didn't understand that there was a gap. And the reason why is because our efforts have been longstanding. I think many of us felt that there was a lot of progress made as D&I practitioners. You and I and everybody else doing this work knew that there was a gap. But for many, they were asking the question, how could this be? And the reality is, and sits with the answer to these three questions. First, were we curious enough about systems of oppression to understand them? Second, did we get moved to get proximate to the lived experience of people and communities that are experiencing it? And third, did that then move us to action so that we actually did something about it? Now, if your answer isn't a resounding yes, therein lies the gap. And the size of that gap sits with how many of us didn't say yes to all three of those questions. Right. Like where we are, Pamela, right now is we are at a moment of choice. Individuals and companies get to choose how they show up in this moment in new and different ways. From a Cisco perspective, we are 77,000 people strong. We choose to do our part to bend the arc of the universe towards fairness and justice and equity and inclusion. And I have to tell you, Pamela, my job has changed. Your job has changed. We are always on. We are rapid responders. Everything that we do is high stakes. We have to have an abundance mindset because we are solving for all, not just for a few. And last but not least, we're in service of something so much bigger than an individual. It's about generational change.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And as we think about this, many companies are now reevaluating their diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies, and they're redefining what corporate impact looks like. Shari, tell us a little bit about how Cisco has changed its strategy over the last year.
So last year was a moment. It wasn't just a moment for us. It was a moment for many companies like us that have been on this journey to solve for fairness and equity and inclusion for a really long time. What we're really clear about is that we have to take bold, intentional, and deliberate action. What we know is that what we have done in the past, that traditional approach of, giving money and then trusting that other entities will do right with it is insufficient. It's insufficient to lead and to meet the moments today and tomorrow. The other thing that is very clear to us is that we can't do this alone. We actually have to find other partners who want to and have a mission to create a recurring impact, and a recurring impact that will last for generations.
You mentioned that companies have to do more than simply give money to good causes. Cisco recently was in the news for giving $150 million to support historically Black colleges and universities. How is that different from traditional corporate impact measures?
Oh, okay. So first, let me say, Pamela, companies always have to give money. Like, that is paramount. That is part of what we do. It is foundational. What I would say from a Cisco perspective is that we are transforming how we think about the next horizon of community impact. Really focus on driving generational change for individuals and communities. Our purpose as a company is to power an inclusive future for all. That was the foundation for how we structured and created our social justice beliefs and our actions. One of those actions is that we are going to do our part to preserve the legacy of HBCUs for generations to come. Some may be asking why. For us, education is foundational for driving generational change. And HBCUs deliver to the world the lion's share of Black talent in America, and they are absolutely critical to creating an extraordinary pipeline of talent for the world. So we are excited. We are excited to do our part. We are not doing it alone. The $100 million that we are putting forward as it relates to hardware, software, and services, which will actually not just preserve HBCUs, but ensure that they have the infrastructure to make them relevant today and tomorrow. And we're not doing this work alone. We are doing it in partnership with two incredible partners, Student Freedom Initiative, which is helping us to identify those schools, and ABC Technologies. They are a triple gold partner of Ciscos, and they are doing the assessment and the installation. But here's what's really important. These partnerships, they're vital. They are vital to our ability to scale, our ability to drive sustainable change, but most importantly, they're an accelerant. They're an accelerant in our ability to actually drive recurring impact for generations.
Thank you. So talk to me a little bit more about Student Freedom Initiative and the endowment that will pay for 4,500 students education in perpetuity. Why did you specifically choose Student Freedom Initiative to partner with?
So when we heard about what Student Freedom Initiative was doing to remove the financial barriers for Black students to get an education, we were inspired. We were inspired to join them. Student Freedom Initiative is taking an innovative approach to applying solutions that work, things like endowments, in very new and different ways to solve very long-standing challenges. What we saw was an opportunity to create a recurring impact, one that would last for generations, but one that would actually hopefully inspire others to join us. You see, inspiration is the currency in this landscape, and we absolutely believe that when you inspire, it drives other people to action, and that action will actually create pathways to prosperity for individuals and communities around the world.
Absolutely. So let's talk about inspiration for a little bit longer. How do corporations inspire people to solve the world's problems? How do you convince people at Cisco and other companies that really care about making the future a better place?
It starts with leading by example. Our CEO, Chuck Robbins, last year at Davos said, a 21st century company must fundamentally care about all of its stakeholders, not just the majority. That statement is profound because what it means is that we have to think beyond just business impact. We actually, to do the kind of change we're looking to do, you have to put communities at the center, and then you have to look at what kind of impact they need and how you can contribute in doing your part as an individual or as a company. When you think about the $50 million seed investment that we did with Student Freedom Initiative, it is just the beginning. The reality of driving generational change doesn't sit with that initial seed investment. It actually sits with others coming to the table. Here's why. That endowment doesn't actually deliver an impact in perpetuity for students unless it reaches $450 million. What that means is that there is room at this table for other individuals or companies to join us in supporting the endowment that SFI started. The reality is it rests on all of us. There isn't any one of us that can do it alone. Inspiration is absolutely the new currency. And hopefully, as others listen and watch, they will be inspired to take action. I would encourage all of you, if you're listening, go check out Cisco's actions. We have many. So the HBCU action is just one of 12. Hopefully they will inspire you to either create your own actions and or join us in creating a bigger impact together. This is how we move mountains. This is how we do it together. And I would say, let's go do this together.
Well, Shari, thank you so much for that very rousing call to action. You've heard it here today. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you so much, Pamela.